All right. Call the Cascade Charter Township Planning Commission to order. Let's see here. We have member Rappin and member Korsnich who are excused. All other members are in attendance. Let's move on to Article 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Stand if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Do we have anybody out in Zoom land? All right. Good thing we got that set up. Moving on to Article 3, to approve the current agenda. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
So moved by member Rissy.
Second.
Seconded and supported by the vice chairman. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to Article 4, to disclose any conflict of interest. Does any member on this body wish to disclose a conflict of interest? Hearing none, we'll move forward. Article 5, approve the minutes of the April 18th meeting. Member Secretary, any amendments, edits, changes?
Yep, I found a couple
Okay,
minor, but probably noteworthy. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, page 5, second paragraph. Third line down, I believe the word should be planned with, we just need to add another N in there.
Okay.
Next page. 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph, second line, strike the word for. Make the sentence complete. Next page, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph. Right in the middle with the sentence that starts area, there's an area that you should insert the word is at least 100 feet long. And then the next line down at the end of the line, insert the word area. Next page. Last paragraph, fourth line from the bottom, the address is the sentence is the site would connect to a water main at Thornapple, insert the word river drive. And I think the last one is the next page. And that is the second paragraph from the bottom. Just switch out the word meets, MEATS, for meets, MEETS.
That was mine. I had that too. No meat about it.
Yeah, no,
Made me hungry though. I had to go out for some barbecue. after
yep,
that.
that's it.
okay.
I have
Vice
one.
Chair, yes.
Page 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, seventh paragraph down. Member Reese asked if it was in the commission's preview to instate harsher restrictions. I talked to my roommate who was an English teacher in college, said it should be purview, PURVUE.
I thought that's what I said.
Okay. So we have those. Jessica, you got them all? Okay, can I get a motion to approve with those? Go ahead, member Rissy.
Move to approve with said corrections.
Excellent. Do I hear support? Support from member Engel. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you. All right, so we have 3 items that we're going to hear tonight. Article 8 and Article 9 both have public hearings. So at this time, we're going to ask visitors to step forward. If it's not about those 2 things, you'll have a chance at those 2 things to address them. But if it is about Article 7, Luminaire Technologies, you're welcome to step forward. Or if it's a matter of any other matter, feel free to step forward. And Jessica, anybody on Zoom yet? All right. So we'll move forward. Article 7. Case number 22-3696, Luminaire Technologies Inc.
So
So the applicant here is requesting site plan approval to construct an approximately 26,500 square foot building at 4,300 Thornapple River Drive. This application was tabled at the April 18 Planning Commission meeting in order for the applicant to provide renderings of the building and additional information related to the fabric that was to be used for the exterior. They have provided that information and it is included in your packets. And then there was also a concern expressed regarding PFAS or contaminants possibly leaving the site as well. Tonight, the applicant is in attendance at the meeting. And I believe they want to provide some additional information and background regarding the project. But before any discussion or action is taken, we will need a motion to take the item off the table.
Can I get a motion to take the item off the table and hear it?
So moved.
So moved by member Engel.
Support.
Support by member Rissy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Do you want the,
We can have the applicant. Do you have anything additional that you'd like to add before we have the applicant come
not
up?
at this time, we can have the applicant come forward and you can always ask me questions afterwards too.
Perfect. Can we have the applicant come forward? If you could state your name and affiliation.
Rick Swartzlander with Luminaire Technologies. I'm the Director of System Test and Validation at our Orlando facility. So
Orlando, like Orlando, Florida?
I love Orlando, born and raised.
All right, very cool.
I've seen snow a handful of times and that's too many. So. But hoping to see it a lot more. Just we'll have to buy some more winter clothes.
Sure.
All right, so I wanted to take the opportunity just to present a little bit of background about the project and as well as who Luminaire is. Luminaire is a LiDAR technology, or Luminaire is a company who's producing LiDAR sensors to enable the autonomous driving industry. So as you all are probably well aware, accidents, vehicular accidents are well, they happen all the time, right? So we have 1 million plus accidents that are happening. And then of course, deaths that accommodate those accidents. But of course, along with just not accidents, there's also 50 million injuries that happen because of our current driving situation. So Luminaire's vision is to eradicate vehicle accidents, period. And how we're going to do that is by creating the world's best LiDAR, launching and enabling the safest and most advanced product for vehicles on the road, as well as enabling proactive safety. So one of the things is that you're all aware of ADAS, right? So that's level 1 and level 2 where we're at. That's definitely got us there, but it doesn't come without its own technology problems. And what Luminaire is looking to do is with our hardware and software product that we're producing is completely eradicating that by enabling proactive safety. So this means we're not removing the driver, but we're enabling the vehicle to intercept where the driver would not be able to avoid an accident. Our leadership team. So we have, after we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, we were actually in stealth for 5 years. And then the company was founded by Austin Russell, along with Jason Eichenholz as the co-founder. I bring up these two individuals because it's a unique story with Austin. He's the 30 under 30. When he started Luminaire, he was actually 18 years old. So he's now 28, celebrated his birthday just in April. And, he had a vision and he was able to meet Jason Eichenholz, who actually was his mentor and helped him establish Luminaire. And of course, you'll see as we're continuing to grow from a research and development company actually to a tier 1 supplier to some pretty well-known automotive industry or OEMs, we've actually enabled or acquired some really big names in the industry. So as I mentioned, celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and this is what our roadmap has looked like over the last 10 years. We established our home in Orlando because of the optics technology that's in Orlando for our hardware, and then software is in Palo Alto, which is actually where Austin is based. And we've gone through the last 10 years acquiring different companies, but what sets Luminaire apart is that we don't acquire a bunch of off-the-shelf components to build our LiDAR product. We actually develop, design, and fabricate our own ASIC and ROIC. And as you can see, in the last couple of years, we've actually acquired some major strategic partnerships, but also some series production wins with Volvo as well as Mercedes-Benz. And those were some huge wins for us. And the reason why we were able to acquire these strategic wins and these in the series production is because of our LiDAR product. And this is why we need the facility, is to be able to test our LiDAR, because we see out to 300 meters and we have a technology roadmap that takes us out to 500. And that's because we want to enable multiple platforms. It's not just the consumer vehicle where you're in a traffic jam situation, you need to see something in 30, 50 meters in front of you. No, we want to enable the trucking industry. We want to enable highway safety as well as robo-taxi. So you need to be able to see out to 300, 500 meters in order to do that. All right, so the project. So we set off in order to find the ability to have 300 meters, plus with the ability to expand out as our product capabilities expanded. And it brought us here to Michigan. Short story is that having 2 big series wins with having to do design validation, we don't have the capacity or capability right now in-house in Orlando to do that. So we sought out to partner with another facility that would allow us to be able to do 2 production DV tests in parallel, which we narrowed it down to Intertech, which brought us to Grand Rapids. And so as you can see here, this is as we developed the project plan, there's some strong project partners that we've been able to acquire to help us with this. So the scope, as I mentioned, this is an infrastructure to be able to characterize and verify our product capability. Again, some of the major reasons why we needed in an enclosure is because 1550 is our nanometer, so that's our wavelength, and that you can't, any atmospheric or changes in the atmosphere would affect us from having a repeatable or reliable or reproducible test. So we had to have an enclosed structure. It doesn't have to be climatically controlled, but it has to be at least where we're not interfering with snow, rain, fog, etc. And thus, we wanted to have something that didn't have to be, an industrial building, which is costly, but at least be able to protect us from the elements. And we had a short wick. So Mercedes came in, we had to meet their project timeline, which means we had to build something quickly. This is our current setup. Just to see in Orlando, we've actually partnered with UCF. So where you see the targets out from 160 to 250, they're on UCF property. So Jason Eichenholz actually has a long withstanding name within UCF. He graduated from there, as I did. So it's cool to be able to work with the university. But as you can see, our facility doesn't allow us to build something where we can go out to 300 meters. We actually are capped right now at 250, but there's no way to enclose this. And if you haven't been to Florida anytime soon, we're very dense and we're very swampland. So it became very difficult to try to find a facility to build. And luckily, Intertech found the Site 5 here at Grand Rapids. So this is a site that we found that gave us the ability to build quickly, as well as have the ability to go from 300 to 500 meters. We set out with terms to be able to have 3 years, but with the ability to renew in 1 year increments out to 5 years. Because again, our home is in Orlando, but we also need to be able to build a test innovation center to enable multiple test capabilities. This is just the beginning. And I wanted to break down the facility structure and why we went with the ClearSpan design. It wasn't so that we could be a pop-up facility that we can show up and leave, in a month or in a year or even 3 years. Like I said, we want to have the ability to put something up quickly, but also be modular, could withstand the environments here. But if we decided that we wanted to go to a different place, whether it's here or in Orlando back home, we could pack up our structure, and plus it's, reused. We don't want to be, our facility and having it end up in the landfill. So ClearSpan actually gave us a structure that we could build quickly, as well as be able to withstand the test of time. So the fabric structure is actually this is a visual representation, so you can see it. It's not like a carnival tent. It's actually an industrial fabric that has a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. So this ClearSpan is a company, there's not very many like ClearSpan, but there's a few. I would say they have a couple of major competitors, but this one was able to deliver in the timing that we were looking for. It has, it has a solid structure. We have entry doors, we have roll-up garage doors in order to get our chamber into the facility. And then, as you can see, we go with just an equipment room to store the chamber as well as our server. Because again, we're going to be doing data collection. This isn't a manned facility, which is why we didn't believe that we needed to have a restroom. We don't plan to be there for long periods of time. It's people to go in, install the units into the chamber, start the chamber, and they leave. And then we come back once they're back in ambient after a full 8 hours of testing, just to switch out units. And I did include a spec sheet of the structure, which should be in your packet, which goes through why they call it a fabric structure. But it is, reinforced, but again, with the lifetime of 15 to 20 years. And I included this as well, just to show you this is what's going inside. When I talk about doing data collection, we look at Lambertian targets in order to be able to take critical KPIs by just taking PCAP data from visualizing those targets inside. Any questions? I know I went through a lot of content quickly.
Yeah, I saw on one of your slides, it said that you guys have the option to terminate within 60 days. So if that 3 years is only 1 year, you guys can terminate and within 60 days and bounce, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're not bringing employees with this?
We are actually, so when I say employees, we have to have employees who can come in and do the data collection. So there are employees who would be housed. Right now, with the capacity and throughput that we're putting through here, it would be no more than 2 people. But that's because Intertech is also supporting with their, who we've contracted with.
And then Mercedes is the one putting the timeline on at the rush?
They are. Yes, we have to meet their project timing, which was, they originally wanted us to start testing in 2 months ago. But we negotiated that we would not have this facility ready to go until the end of July. Because we still have to build the interior as well as verify and validate the setup.
Thank you.
I raised the initial question about the fabric
Mhm.
of the structure, and I feel much better about this. But just if some freak chance something happened, I imagine that this would be repaired quite quickly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is imperative to us. We have a lot of, this may not look like much, but inside this structure here is $1 million that we're building. They're on actuators in order to be where it's not manned. So it's on a software controlled. So these structures that you see here, each of them, we have 15 data points. So they have to move. Those 3 have to move into various positions as well as fold down. Those Lambertian targets are $2,000 to $10,000 a piece. Again, inside there's over $1 million worth of equipment.
These on tracks,
They are.
and you're partnering with the Kentwood, Michigan tech company for this piece?
With Intertech is who we have partnered with in order to run our design validation test phase. And a part of that is where they have to run what's called a parameter test, where they would have to come to this facility to run that data collection to assess our product's performance before and after age and environments.
And they are from Kentwood or a local company?
They are, yeah, yep. So Intertech, they're worldwide, but there's a facility that is 15 minutes down the road.
Do you think there's any possibility of going past the 5-year mark?
Absolutely. So what we've talked about with Grand Rapids is, and I mentioned this, is that we have to grow as an organization too, which includes building a test innovation center, having access to a test track. We're not just a hardware, we also have perception stack. So which means we integrate into a vehicle and we have to be able to do road test data and data collection and validation at the software level, which requires a test track. Because of the proprietary, I mean, Luminaire is leading the edge with this product development and our capabilities. So we have issues when it comes to protecting our IP. So we don't like to go to just any facility. We're in the process and looking to build our own. And Grand Rapids showed us a few other sites that they had where we could potentially build our test innovation center.
So if things go well here, you could potentially continue additional business practices down the road.
That's the dream. That is the dream because, and you know, when I said we interviewed and narrowed it down to, you know, Intertech as being the company, the reason why they were on our list is because they're in Michigan. They're in the, you know, that's where the automotive was born. So why not have Luminaire, who is building LiDAR for the automotive industry, be in Michigan as well?
Some of the earlier information talked about future expansion of this facility,
Yes, sir.
like another 250 feet or something like that.
Meters.
Meters, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay. And would that be an extension of the length of this structure?
It would, and that's actually one of the reasons why we went with the clear span structure as well, because it's easy to add on to.
Okay.
So we have to go out to, like I said, 500 meters in the
Okay.
long run. So we do know that that's not a part of this site approval. We are prepared to come back in order to get the additional 200 meters approved.
Understood.
Has the building department gotten back to you about the appeal on the restroom that you're aware of?
I will have to defer to John.
Brian, do you know?
I haven't heard anything from them. I would guess the applicant or engineer would know, but I don't have an update on that.
Okay. And then have you tested any of the water there? Done any testing to identify if there is PFAS present at that location?
We have, Luminaire specifically has not. When we reached out to Grand Rapids, or when Intertech found this site, we were told that this site was authorized to build on for industrial purposes, which is what we're building. So again, having a site that's been approved to build on, you would assume that those are
But
things
you
that are
don't
already
know,
checked out.
you don't know if the landlord did.
I do not.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have some questions related to the site plan, but I don't know if they're specific to her.
It looks like their engineer is here, so perhaps he could come up as well.
Are you planning on doing a phase one environmental?
A phase one environmental.
Yes.
I believe that is part of our plan. But again, I'm not the, I'm funding this. Obviously, this is enabling my test capabilities, but I have hired a team of those who to be able to answer those questions. So John, the environmental.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes,
you're
thank you.
welcome. You're all-
Very helpful.
Thank you.
John Stroh, Brian Newhoff. I am the applicant working for Luminaire Technologies.
So I think we can start with member Nordhook's question. Go ahead.
I apologize, but could you repeat the question? please?
Phase one environmental, is that a plan? That part of your plan?
Phase one environmental, to my knowledge, has not been performed. It's leased land. There is no land ownership transfer occurring. In my experience, it's usually that transfer of ownership that creates the need for the phase one.
That's true.
We did one for our fire station that we're renting out at the airport.
Oh, it's definitely something that can be required by this body.
We did it.
Did you, do you know if they checked the groundwater for PFAS?
I do not know specifically.
Do you know if the landlord checked the groundwater for PFAS?
I don't know.
Okay.
Questions?
Yep.
Do we have a way of putting the site plan up on there?
Which page?
The one that, well.
Here,
I gotta look at my.
I think I can show it on
screen.
mine.
The one I can't read. Let me see, what?
Yeah. That one right there, I think has grades on it. What is that like?
Page 37 of, yeah, page 37.
Page of the site plan.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Oh.
Can you read that number?
2.7 maybe?
2-7, yeah.
Or no, go down further. Not that one. Hang on.
I
I'll
can
get
put,
it right.
I can put mine up, can't I, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it right here.
Well, the problem is in the packet, it's a scan, so you can't, so the,
Page 37 in the packet, though.
I throw that up there. That'll work. We can improvise. I got an arrow. I can get creative. Okay, let's see here. Mr. Stroh. This end of the building, you see where I just moved the cursor?
Yes.
I drove by the site. I noticed there's some survey stakes out there. I presume that's the from the, I didn't walk around, but from the street, I could see some survey stakes in the vicinity of where this is going to be. I'm assuming these designate roughly the ends of the building or the.
My assumption is that those stakes were used to locate the soil borings.
Okay, all right. Is the grade there is on a bit of a slope? And would you say that, I guess I'm trying to get an idea of how much the grade is changing and the numbers in the packet that show the grade, I can't read those numbers.
Right.
Because when you zoom in, they blur. So I guess what I'm trying to determine is the end of the building where the parking lot is that approximately what the grade will be going all the way across? So there'll be fill at the south end of the building, or will the north end of the building be lower, excavated lower to keep, I'm assuming the building's level.
Yes, the building will be level.
Okay.
What I'll refer to as the northwest end of the building
Mhm.
will be excavated down approximately 3 feet.
Okay.
And that elevation will then be extended out over the lower plateau. And by the time you get to the south east end of the building, there's going to be approximately 25 feet of fill.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That gives me some perspective on what we're doing. I'm not sure. Well, that kind of answers my questions there. So you can go ahead with someone else if you want. I got to think about this a minute.
Ralph, did you have any?
Now you have a gravel drive on both sides of the structure.
There's a gravel path, personnel path on the northeast side closest to the railroad track. There's a wider drive on the opposite side to allow potential vehicle traffic, case of emergency, fire access, maintenance. And then there's a little turnaround for those vehicles down towards that southeast end.
Okay, and the lines I see running almost parallel to the structure on both the northeast side and the southwest side, are those drainage devices?
Yeah, a tile pipe sock drain is going to be put underneath the floor of the building just to try and keep water from building up underneath the floor, minimize frost heave. Very typical what you'd find around the footing of a home or any
Fabric
standard
cover with
business.
stone on top?
Fabric cover around the pipe. And then in this case, it's going to have a gravel over top of
Okay.
the trench.
Okay.
You know what the building is rated for from a wind, because it is a temporary building, right? But
Even though it's a temporary building, it still has to meet Michigan Building Code requirements. I don't know what those numbers are, but I do know it needs to meet that code
and
requirement.
the fabric also will meet that from a wind. There's a lot of wind that I've seen there. I don't,
Yes, the fabric is part of the structural
Okay.
integrity of the building.
Yes, member Rissy.
Do you know approximately what the setback from the street to the southeast corner of the building is?
Off the top of my head, no.
Brian, do you know what that is? I tried to find it in there and I couldn't. There was one dimension that looked like it was about 65 feet off the railroad, but I couldn't see one coming. from
Yeah,
the
you see
street.
that hash line is, I
61.3
believe, the 100-foot setback. So it would be over, just eyeballing it, maybe 200, 250 feet.
Understood. Thank you.
then the stormwater, where is that being diverted to then?
The stormwater is being collected on both the northeast and southwest sides of the building. The site naturally flows from generally the north to the south. There's 2 detention basins are being created, one for each side of the building at that southerly end. One of the basins has a multi-outlet structure to allow collect the first half-inch of rain, to collect and store the 2-year event, and to store the 25-year event. Those are standard rainfall calculations, rainfall volumes upon which to size those.
That will be kept underground.
That is above ground, but it is intended to drain dry within 24 hours.
Understood. Any other questions for?
I'd like to discuss, but I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Discussion.
Oh, darn. Knew that was coming.
Yep.
So I guess this one's a little more challenging because of its sales pitch comes with that temporary label, right? And so in trying to think about this, I'm thinking to myself, I try to boil things down to and maybe a residential situation. Would I want to see one of these in my yard? And I think about it and I say, well, from a user standpoint, sounds great, right? More space. Everybody needs space. Keep another boat, maybe 2, a camper, that kind of thing. But then I think of the neighbor side of it and I think, don't really want to see that. But when you drive out here, it's industrial. And there's nothing there. I mean, it's next to an airport, right?
And railroad track.
And a railroad track that doesn't get used as often now that we don't burn coal. So it's probably, if you're gonna do this, it's probably one of the better spots from a not in my backyard standpoint. But I have some concerns. I think that if we approve this, and I guess I want to make sure that there is a limitation on the length of time or something. I don't know how to work that, but I guess what I'm envisioning is somebody builds a building, they use it for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. They move out. Does someone else then have the opportunity to lease it, or is it raised? And if it's torn down, what does the restoration look like of the site? Is it just a concrete pad that's a quarter mile, almost a quarter mile long, or is it brought back to a woods or field? So I guess that's one thing that I think we should think about here. I also answered my questions about grade, and I don't like the idea of driving down Thornapple River Drive, seeing 1,000-foot long hoop house, as I would describe it. So maybe, and on the northwest side, it's going to be down pretty far. You could easily screen that. It's the south end, southeast end, that's going to be a little bit more visible, right? And so my thought is that maybe there needs to be a berm or screening there to hide it from the road. There's plenty of setback to do that. And then my last, I think, reservation here is that stormwater runoff concerns me with the sensitivity of the possibility of PFAS, as we've discussed. And also I try to be a little bit more proactive with runoff and heading to the river. And I know that's the direct path of this. We require even our local pizza shop to have stricter standards on runoff for events, even require them to put detention under the parking lot. I'm not advocating how they manage it, but I feel that a 25-year event might be a little more casual. I know that from what I read in the plan, that meets essentially that is static to what's happening there now. But I think we should try to aim to be a little better than what's happening now. A slight increase or same level of runoff from the site is, I think we should try to be just a touch more than that. So I would advocate for something a little more stricter, I think. But those are my comments and thoughts. And the last thing is, I think that if any additions or changes were to occur, I don't think it should be a staff decision. I think it should be a planning commission decision. I thought I read in the staff report somewhere that they would have to come back if they wanted to make an addition.
If they want to do the addition planned on there, it was large enough that would have to come back for site plan approval.
Okay, that would be, I think any changes there should come from the planning commission. So those are my comments thus far.
Member Nordhook.
When I'm looking at this, I'm asking myself, what does this do for Cascade? How does it benefit the residents of our township? And I'm hearing that there's very few, maybe 2 employees. I'm hearing temporary, we might stay, we might not stay, but we really don't want to make a commitment. I'm hearing that Grand Rapids has several sites that may be possible. And I'm hearing Kentwood has a company that can help. But my Cascade residents get to see the tent. And we did a Chick-fil-A. They brought in, I'm going to say about 70 employees, and our residents get an opportunity to have chicken. We did Timmy's Car Wash. They bring on about 25 employees. We can get our car washed.
And a coffee.
Car dealership brings on about 120 employees. We can buy cars and get our cars fixed. I don't see a benefit to Cascade to have this. And the temporary nature and the lack of commitment has got my concerns, so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we also are setting precedent too. If, that we are setting precedent for other temporary businesses to come in and now invest in Cascade. The other thought I had when Scott was talking was, since it's a leased property, if there is a PFAS issue, we wouldn't go after them, we would go after the airport. And I believe that's been unsuccessful in the past. So I think, it's something to probably consider as well, because I have a feeling they wouldn't comply with our requests.
Okay. Any other discussion or thoughts? I have some. So I heard Member Nordhook say, what does this do for Cascade Township? And, as Timmy is elected and we are appointed to look out for the interest of Cascade Township, but I think that's something to consider. I think that we have a requirement as a planning commission to preserve the physical environment and the impact any development has on adjacent and neighboring properties. I am very concerned about the PFAS that may or may not exist there. And certainly if this were to be approved, I'd recommend prior to approval that groundwater is tested. Member Rowland made a very good point. We've attempted to work with the landlord and have had difficulties, and that's not to put that at all on the tenant, but at the same time, if something is built that has the potential to have an effect on adjacent properties and distribute the PFAS further, or into some of our natural resources like the river, I'd like to see a remediation plan in place as part of the approval of this structure. But we don't know. I think that needs to be tested. We haven't heard if there is in fact PFAS there or not. I think the other thing, I'll come right back to you, Member Rissy, is landscaping. There's no landscape requirement per se because it is a temporary building. However, I heard them say a few times that they may go over 5 years. And I would argue at that point, it is absolutely not a temporary building, even if there's a possibility. And, candidly, I drive that stretch of road and I think it will be an eyesore. And I think if, at the very minimum, we'd want to see some extensive landscaping put in front of that building so that, again, we talk about what's in it for Cascade Township. If there's nothing in it for Cascade Township, at least let's remove the blighted view. So, but those are my comments. Member Rissy, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned testing of the groundwater, and I think that it's probably more important to test the soil in the area that it's being disturbed,
That's a
because
good
they're not digging down to the groundwater. They're not proposing a well here. They're not, we already know what's in the groundwater. I think it's more a question of the area that's being disturbed, and that's what would be running off in a rain event. They're not going to affect the groundwater in any way.
That's fair.
So
enough.
if you wanted to go down the road of testing, in my opinion, you would, I think he said they're gonna do, less than 15 feet of digging at the north end. Those weren't his words, but he threw out a number that was fairly shallow at that end, and they're filling at the other end. So I would assume that, if you went down to a depth that was a few feet over their disruptive layer, I think you'd be okay.
Okay.
That's just my.
Yeah.
And one last point, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here and speak for the rest of the members, but please don't think that we're anti-business. I think we're all very pro-business here, and this seems like a great company and a great product, and this is exactly the kind of company we want here in Cascade. But what you're proposing isn't really a company, right? It's a storage facility. It's a testing facility. If you were bringing 100 jobs here and building a building and having a full-blown testing facility, I think we would all, bend over backwards to try and, we want you guys here. It's just, I don't think that's what this is. And so I just want to make it clear that we are pro-business, and this isn't, we like you guys and we like the product. It's just, yeah.
Member Rissy?
I hear where you're going with that, Member Roland, but I guess my perspective on this is that it's supportive of a company that's already here. So, I mean, they could move to some other municipality nearby, but I guess that's what I'm thinking, is that this is supporting them to be able to do the manufacturing and the testing, here as opposed to Colorado or wherever they decide,
Okay.
Brian, a quick question. If they did require the bathroom, would they then have to hook to sewer, or how would they? Is there a sewer connection, or is there just city water?
So adjacent, there's only city water. Sewer is a little ways away.
So
At the last meeting, my proposal was they would need a septic tank. And again, this would be all reviewed if it extends beyond 5 years, because typically we do require a connection for an industrial site to sewer and water.
So if they did a septic, then they would be accessing the groundwater, right?
Could potentially, I'd want to
Yeah.
probably
And-
check the health, right? That all goes through the health department for approval, but.
Yeah, and we made the statement that we know that there's PFAS there. I think the state of Michigan knows, we feel pretty strongly, but the landowner has not conceded that there is or is not. So it might be interesting to see if we could have the landlord or the tenant test that. If in fact, there would be a requirement for septic. And again, I go back to, we've been told that by the applicant that this could extend beyond 5 years. And so if that is in fact the case, it would be required to put in a bathroom. Is that accurate?
That would be a building code decision if a bathroom would have to go in at that point or not. If you know, one of the conditions in the staff report is that if it extends beyond 5 years, we'd expect them to come back for a full site plan approval, because there's some exemptions we're giving, such as landscaping or connecting to sewer. So that was my proposal at that point. Want them to come back. We might look at some of these other things if they extend it beyond 5 years.
So at that point, it might make sense now to get these environmental things out of the way, because we're going to be at that point in a different position if the tent exists, right? So go ahead, Member Rissy.
well, I think I made the point the last time that I was I did not like seeing the septic option in there for several reasons. One being the fact that and not too many years ago, I was told that you had to extend sewer out in that area, even if you weren't going to have a bathroom.
Yep.
Just to develop out there. So I really feel that that's a change of a policy that I think is I just don't agree with that. So I could see if the septic issue, if they're not going to have people there on a regular basis and they just need to offer them a place, there's ways to do that without putting in a septic system. And if in 5 years they're going to stay longer, then they could look at the extension of sewer. But I would probably be pushing away from the septic system idea and going to something more temporary, whether it's a holding tank that's pumped on a basis, or maybe I don't know. There's, like I said, there's other ways around that, I think, from a temporary standpoint. But to put in a septic system for a building that's just going to be there for 5 years in an area that previously required sewer, I think is giving too many
Path too far?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Member Moxley.
My concern really repeats what Member Nordhook talked about. I don't like the fact that we're really not bringing in substantial number of jobs on a permanent basis. But more importantly, I just don't like the temporary nature. And this thing is big. I mean, it's 1,000 feet long, could grow to be another 250 feet long. And when you get down to that southeast corner, I mean, we're talking the floor is going to be 20 feet above those retaining ponds, plus another 19 feet to the top of the structure. That's 39 feet. This is going to be very pronounced. And I, as an architect, I just don't like it here.
Any other discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion? We should at least make a motion. As a rule, I don't like to do it as the chairperson, so
The motion?
should we try to craft one as a group? Is that what you're
We
suggesting?
could craft a motion and then you guys can vote it down or up, however you see fit.
Fair enough. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to, you gotta bear with me here.
Yep.
while I figure this out. I have one question though. I don't know how to, if we,
We can talk through this. This doesn't
Okay.
have to be
All
that
right.
formal.
all right. So I would propose a motion that would give an approval with staff recommendations, but require stormwater retention for a 50-year event instead of 25. And I would limit the that the site cannot be, the tenant of the site cannot change and the use cannot change with of the structure without approval of the planning commission. I would recommend a berm to block the view from the road.
Just a berm or further landscaping?
With landscaping, to whatever screening is necessary to block the view from the road. And I would want to see at the time that the site is vacated, I believe that it should be restored to its original condition, unless they came to the planning commission and asked for an exception to that because there was some other use that they thought, might happen there. But that would be my, I guess that doesn't have to be in the, they could come back later, ask for that. But I would say that the planning commission approves any changes to the plan, any additions, and I would not want a septic system there. And the challenging one for me is the discussion of soil testing and at what depth, and what is that? What is that parameter? What are we accomplishing there if we're doing that? I'm not sure how to
I
I'm not
think,
sure how to do that one.
I think if PFAS or something was found in the soil, we'd need a remediation plan to treat that or modify the stormwater agreement so that it would protect the neighboring locations, right? Again, I don't know what that looks like. I think they would probably at that point want to retain some kind of environmental specialist to bring us a plan, but I do feel that we don't know what's there.
I guess my concern is to make sure that sediment from
Yeah.
the site isn't leaving.
Yeah.
And if the stormwater system is built right, so that it is slowing the flow of water from the site. So obviously the flow of water carries sediment with it. If we're slowing the flow of water from the site and we're minimizing the impact of that, we probably don't need to worry about testing the soil because we have not disrupted, I shouldn't say disrupted, we haven't moved any soil to the river from the site in theory. So I mean, I guess that I'm not
Phase
trying.
one environmental do that then? Would that be sufficient? I mean, Timmy, you had brought that up that was the airport's policy and we put the fire station there. They probably had it for good reason, right?
We did it for a good reason, so that we had a baseline in case the PFAS moved and then we were liable.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it. So we're gonna be renting there for a couple of years.
And my concern, and again, it doesn't have to be in the motion, I'm just putting it out there, this is temporary, right? In 5 years, they're back in Orlando. Do we want to have a environmental that does establish a baseline?
It's up to them.
Is it? We can put it as a requirement. Yes.
If we increase the retention requirement to a 50-year event, doesn't that pretty much take care of concerns about PFAS runoff? Maybe I'm missing something here. To me, that would address that completely, test or no test. I mean, if there's PFAS on the site right now, there's runoff right now.
Absolutely.
And if we take care of a new problem caused by runoff of this very large building with adequately sized retention, I don't see the need to drill or test or to require them to do that.
Okay.
I kind of along the same lines.
Okay.
And when I say restore the site, I'm referring to removing any impervious surface, like removal of the concrete, or removal of the driveway. I'm not saying change the grades, take out the berm. I would just get rid of the, I don't want to see a 26-foot wide, 1,000-foot long concrete pad there in 25 years, like still have a drive-in movie theater, back by waterfall shops. So, I mean, that's what I'm thinking in my mind is let's get rid of it and make it go away, and they can seed it with grass seed or whatever at that point. But that's my take on that. So I suppose that if I was going to consider anything there, it would be under those.
Member Moxley.
The development of the site should include that they include SESC storm or soil erosion, stormwater control for all disturbed areas, including mats. I don't want to see a lot of runoff and rivulets caused by soil erosion.
Okay. So to repeat what you've said,
Yes, let's try that.
I wrote notes. You are making a motion to approve with staff recommendations. Let me make this official. Member Rissy is making the following motion to approve. What is the article?
Article number 223696, Luminaire Technologies.
Okay, to extend the stormwater to a 50-year event. Limit the tenant where it cannot change and the use cannot change without approval of the planning commission. If that does happen, the site will be need to be returned to how it is today. that a berm be added with landscaping to block, completely block the view from the road. And let's see here, that there will be no septic, that any changes of any kind will have to be approved by the planning commission, and that there is an SESC developed soil control plan. Did I say that right?
Soil erosion, stormwater control.
Yeah, soil erosion, stormwater control. Yes.
You said that restoration would be back to how the site is today. That is not,
Okay, no, I can- if I
want it
would
to
amend that.
be, I just want to have the impervious surfaces removed.
All right.
If at the time they're all said and done and everything's successful and everybody's happy, they got to come in and clear the site to the way it's supposed to be. And I don't know if we need a bond or something to secure, to make sure that happens, but
Yeah, there's a lot of cement. So
that's a
we're-
lot of cement.
so what do we think of, what, 200K bond? What's the,
Brian, what's the protocol on that? I mean, is that something we want to have the engineer
Yeah, I
determine?
would probably ask them for an estimate on what that cost would be, and that's what the amount of the bond would be.
we'd probably want to add 5 years of inflation as well,
So was that 30%?
10% a year. Yeah. Okay, all right. Does somebody support that motion?
Or was there any other discussion?
Any other
before we-
discussion? Yeah.
At the risk. of
Yes.
Deviating here a little bit, back to the berm discussion. We have an expressway on one side, we have a road on the other. We're talking about visibility to Thornapple, correct?
Yes.
And I'm making it invisible to Thornapple. In my mind's eye is pretty impossible to do without, I mean, you're gonna build a mountain there and I think my sense would be to make them create a reasonable limited view of the building with landscaping rather than requiring them to put up a mountain that you can't see it at all, which is how that motion started out.
Is everybody?
Just my 2
No,
cents.
I would be okay with that. And I mean, ask Mr. Stroh a second. What's your take on a berm there? Is that to help minimize the view from the street? Are you familiar with the grade enough of the site to give us some help?
The area right along the right of way from Apple River Drive is maintaining pretty consistent grade. In many cases, the road actually sits below the hill that's on the site. If the commission is proceeding along these lines, the first place I would suggest the landscape architect look to put the trees would be just outside the road right away along the River Drive.
Okay.
And if I may, going back to the question about the septic,
Mhm.
in conversations with the Kent County Health Department, the septic system will not be permitted on the site.
Okay.
So that is off the table. If if a sanitary sewer is required, it will likely be an extension of the airport's private sanitary system.
Okay.
Got it.
Thank you for the information.
What's that?
I think I'd like to add that to the motion.
All right, that,
Sanitary sewer be connected.
yes, and then also add, so there's, it's got a chair motion. Are you good with adding sanitary sewer be connected?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good with that.
Member Moxley?
And I would agree with what the engineer said, that I think putting in landscaping closer to the road would be more effective than trying to build another berm closer to the building. And I would change the motion to add that landscaping if it's evergreens.
Okay.
I have reservations here, you guys, because landscaping sounds great, doesn't it? But
Says the
having a
landscaper.
landscaping background, I can tell you that the idea of adding trees sounds like a wonderful plan. but these guys are planning on being gone in 7 years. Those trees grow a foot a year. In 5 years, they're not, I mean, by the time they start to screen, you're done and gone.
So should there be a minimum tree height that has to be installed?
I don't know. That's why I was saying that there should be some berming involved, not just trees.
Okay.
Because if you throw a row of pine trees in, they're 6 feet tall, but they're gonna, I mean, I don't think I feel like that's a waste of money on their part to put a bunch of trees. I'm fine with adding trees. That's great, but I think that the idea is screening. There's gonna need, at that southeast end, there's gonna need to be some contour to the grade to achieve the ultimate goal of giving it some visual block.
Closer
And
to the road
it's-
or to the structure?
I leave that up to them to decide where it goes. I'm not trying to engineer it. I'm just saying I'd like to see somewhat of a berm there with some landscaping on it. I'm not gonna say that it has to block the whole view of the building. We just, when you come down Thornton Drive, I don't want to see a 1,000-foot long building right there. That's all I'm
Okay. So we'll
advocating.
modify your
I
motion.
would
to
expect that the
be
professionals would come up with a good,
landscaping with the berm
Yeah.
to block the majority of the view. Are we good with that language?
does that work, Joe?
To create an acceptable aesthetic.
There we go.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, does somebody support? I thought member Deering, did I hear support from member Deering? Okay, we have a motion on the table. Brian, this is going to be a close one. Can you roll call for us, please?
Can I just get a clarification on the connecting to sanitary? Is that if a permanent restroom is required, they're required to connect to sanitary then instead of a septic system?
That's
Is that kind of what the direction?
I was.
Septic wasn't allowed by the
Yeah,
county.
right.
So, yeah, I wanted to.
Right.
If there's,
Sewer run out, that's our ordinance.
Yeah,
So let's bring on the sewer.
bring it on.
So you want a roll call vote?
Yes.
With that motion? Member Nordhook,
No.
member Allen, Roland,
No.
member Reese,
yes.
member Moxley,
Yes.
Chairman Nordike,
No.
member Deering,
Yes.
member Engel.
Yes.
So
Motion
that's
passes.
correct. Yep.
So please get with Brian. There's a lot of requirements there and a requirement for a bond, and we'll work with you to get that through. Thank you.
We need a police escort tonight to get out of here. Well, I would just like to apologize to Article 8 and Article 9 because we should have reorganized this agenda and
Sorry,
you've
guys.
been very patient and I apologize for that.
Moving
That
on to
was
Article 8.
short-sighted on our part to not do that. We're normally pretty good about that.
That's
but-
because we had the item tabled, so we had to address that one first and then get to. the
Is that how
other
that
ones.
works? There's a rule to that?
It's what we always try to do, get the
Okay.
previous items first, but. So yeah, here, then on the next item on the agenda, so we have the applicants requesting a type 1 special use permit to allow for an accessory building over 832 square feet. The property is located on the south side of 45th Street between Whitneyville and Cherry Lane. So the building will be 30 by 40 for a total size of 1,200 square feet. And it has a height of 14 feet tall measured to the midpoint of the roof. So that requires the 10-foot side yard and 25-foot rear yard setback. And the site plan shows the building will be 14 feet from the side property line and 99 from the rear, meeting those setback requirements. The property is under 3 acres in size, so it is only permitted to have 1 accessory building. There is currently a shed located on the property that will need to be removed before the new building is completed. The applicant indicated that they plan to use the building for general storage. The building will have steel roofing and siding, and the size of the building is normal for the lot size and zoning district. So here the applicant appears to meet our standards for an accessory building, so staff are recommending approval of the special use permit with our typical 2 conditions: that the building is not used for living space or to run a business, and that any outdoor lighting meets our regulations. And also a 3rd condition, that the existing shed must be removed before a final inspection of the new accessory building can be scheduled.
Any questions for Brian? Is the applicant present? Would you like to speak? Come on, please come up and give us your name, address, and so we can have it in the
James
minutes.
Matthews, and I live at 8320 45th Street. And yeah, I mean, I'm set back off the road like 300 feet. No, I mean, I don't think I think Mr. Hilbrand's visited the site. It's pretty secluded back there, and it's just for storage purposes, boats, trailers, stuff like that.
Excellent. Any questions? Yes, Member Rissy.
I ask this all the time because it's never on the site plan. Do you know where your septic system is?
Yes.
Okay, and it's not where you're putting the building?
No.
Yeah, I know it sounds like an elementary thing to ask this, but you don't know how many buildings I've seen that have been added on to in the last 10 years that are on
Yeah.
top of their septic system.
Right. I
It
made- I
happens
made sure of that.
frequently just down the road from your house. So that's why I make a big deal about this all the time, because I've seen some pretty interesting things. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I've ripped up concrete for that reason. Properties.
Yeah.
There we go.
It is
I
no
don't want to do
fun.
that. Concrete's expensive.
It is no fun. It is no fun. So,
It's even worse when your daughter's bedroom is built over it.
yeah, no, it's no fun for anybody. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, the only question I have, and I pretty much ask it every single time too, is you're not running a business out of this.
No,
Okay.
nope.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Somebody want to take a shot at the motion?
Case You need number a 20.
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
good point.
Good
I
call.
make a motion to open the public hearing.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Do we have anybody on Zoom, Jessica? All right. Hearing
Make a
none.
motion to close the public hearing.
I hear support. 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 All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman, regarding case number 22-3703, I would move to approve with the conditions that are in the staff report, that it cannot be used for living space, they cannot run a business, and any outdoor lighting would need to meet our regulations.
And the third
And
as
the
well.
shed has to be
Then the shed
removed.
has to be removed before the final inspection and approval.
Got a motion? Do I hear support? Support. Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving to Article 9.
Sorry for the wait.
Yes.
All right, so once again, here, the applicant's requesting the type 1 special use permit to allow for the accessory building over 832 square feet. This property is located near the end of Ashwood Drive, which is on the east side of Buttrick. This building will be, have 18 by 40 with a small bump out, as well as a 14 by 30 foot covered patio, which would be a total size of 1,260 square feet. Also having a height of 14 foot tall measured to the midpoint of the roof, requiring the same 10-foot side yard and 25-foot rear yard setbacks. The site plan shows the building will be set back 40 feet from the side property line and approximately 75 feet from the rear to meeting those requirements. This property is also under 3 acres, so this is the only accessory building that would be permitted on the property. The applicant indicated they plan to use the building to store a boat and also serve as a pool house. The building will have shingled roofing and board and batten siding to match the house, and then the size of the building would be described as normal for the lot size and zoning district. So here again, the applicant appears to meet our standards for an accessory building, so staff are recommending approval of the special use permit with the two conditions: that the building is not used for living space or to run a business, and that any outdoor lighting meets our regulations.
Excellent. Any questions for Brian? Hearing none. Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would the applicant like to speak?
Yes.
Excellent. You're-
Hi, I'm Jeff Harwood. I'm an architect. And there won't be anyone living in there. So, well,
Jeff, can you give me your name and your address, please?
yeah, it's Jeff Harwood and where I live.
Yeah.
Address, 32 Shell Court.
Okay, thank you. We'd like it for the minutes.
Okay, no, that's,
All right,
okay.
but go ahead. Sorry.
no one will be living in it. So we'll get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it where you see there. We want it to fit in with the existing house, and it sits back behind the house, and there's actually some rolling hills. So it's going to be kind of depressed in there a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Just one comment from another architect. Looks
Uh-huh.
great.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, beautiful building.
Thank
Does
you.
look good.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
It was actually nice. My client is here and they did a really good job at helping me along. So, but
Yeah.
thank you very much.
It
Appreciate
looks
it.
like a nice facility.
Thank you.
Any other All right, thank you very much. We'll
Thank
move
you.
To a public hearing. Do I hear a motion?
I would so move.
Moved by member Rissy, supported by
Support.
member Moxley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right, anybody on Zoom? Okay, hearing nobody.
I make a motion to end the public hearing.
I hear support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, somebody like to craft the motion, member Rissy?
Why is it always me?
You're good at it.
Okay, case number 22-3707. Move to approve on this with the usual conditions for accessory buildings that cannot be used as residence, cannot operate a business out of the accessory building, and any lighting needs to meet our regulations.
Support.
Supported by member Daring. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, sorry to keep you here so late. Okay, moving on to Article 10, old business. I think I've surveyed and everybody here is on the email. The two people who are absent are not on it, so we can offer them no help, but Wendy did send us an email to the new email system from her personal email, which indicates to me that she is aware of said email. So
I'll check with Ben and Wendy too to make sure, see how they're doing. And I'll just send out a test email later this week and everyone just respond that you
so I
got
did
it.
that.
You did? Okay.
Mr. Engel's the only one who didn't respond, but
I didn't realize I was supposed to actually look at it once I got it, but yeah, I will do that, Chris.
Yeah,
I'll
so
tell you.
have to, Joe,
just-
because pretty
just a
soon
reminder
I
for
won't
everyone to
asked
be-
for resignations real soon.
Just a
Member
reminder.
Roland has
You might
agreed
not wanna
to
check.
help anybody from an IT support that needs access. So.
I'm the last person you want help from.
So yeah, just a reminder to be checking that email then and take a little bit of getting used to, but we'll try to just use those completely moving forward. So.
Yes.
Just one comment. I want to thank Katie Morosky of the staff for helping me get my email set up. Thank you very much to her.
Excellent. Moving on to Article 11, any other business? I have one thing. Brian sent out information on additional learning opportunities. Really want to encourage everybody to consider that. I'd just love to have some subject matter experts, in different areas. So please consider it. And, perhaps Brian in the next month will pick 3 or 4 to put up and see if we can get people to sign up for it, especially the remote stuff where you can just do it and not having to show up for a class. One of my big initiatives this year is trying to push that. So
Did he send something out? Did you send something out recently, Brian, or was that in the last packet?
Last packet, so
For
a month.
March.
Yep.
Okay.
would you mind just sending us an email with just that?
Sure.
All right, and then everybody can look at it and we can put it on. So,
Those are all programs that have already passed.
no, there's some remote stuff that's ongoing. Like,
Is it really?
yeah, it's,
Okay, understood.
go at your own pace stuff.
I
isn't
think there was some, the Michigan Association of Planning courses had passed, but I believe there's still some MSU extension citizen planner courses and I'll double check, but I'll send that out again.
Yeah, in the fall, they always have a bunch too, so maybe we can get ahead of that this year and get people locked in. So, member Rissy.
You mentioned any other business. This case that took an enormous amount of time by the planning commission. Driving out there, I see the construction of other buildings on the property on the other side of the road. It's ongoing, and I guess I was curious if there's a desire by the planning commission, just something to think about maybe. Do we want to look at possibly discussing stricter stormwater rules or rules specific to the zoning categories of that property, of the airport property, and being able to look at and approve site plans that are being developed out there that we currently are not paying any attention to whatsoever. Because there seemed to be a lot of energy amongst this group related to this project across the road. And there's projects going on, right there next, on our side of the runway, if you will, that are not, we're not taking a blind eye to. And I'm just wondering if there's a desire maybe at some point in the future to look at, do we want to, maybe we look at it and we don't want to change the zoning, but I just, or change the requirements of the processes over there. But I think it might be something that we should have a discussion on at some point when we have a later agenda. I just throw it out there as a possibility, if there's interest. If there's not, then I'll sit back and be quiet. But I feel that after this discussion, it would appear to me that there's a concern by many, if not all, to have stricter view on what's happening there, particularly with the runoff of the property, knowing that it has some pollutants.
I would be interested in having the conversation. Anybody that wouldn't be? So Brian, let's get that on. I think the other thing that would be helpful is to get an opinion, and either I can request it or you can, from the attorney on what we are allowed to. I know that if it's not non-aeronautical in zone 2, which all of that is, we should absolutely have the ability. And it might make sense to have, once we get that opinion, have our inspectors.
Yeah, non-aeronautical uses on the exterior require site plan approval by this group. Anything on the interior does not, how it's currently written.
So we should probably do a 10-year look back and see if that has been happening.
It should be, because I mean, everything requires a building permit, so it should still go through our office to
What about
see.
those new buildings that they're building out there right now? They're not part of the terminal. They're on the.
The AC subzone 1 is very large. That doesn't require any review. And it shows on the zoning map too, but
And maybe that's part of the area that needs to be reviewed.
that could be.
I mean, maybe that area is just too big.
I mean, if it's a hangar, I get it, but
Yeah.
if it's a processing facility for FedEx packages, that's something different,
But
right?
even if it's a hangar, I think we can have a say a little bit in the, maybe we, again, stormwater is, you know, disruption of soil. Those are the, I mean, they're digging holes and putting pavement down. I think that that's within our purview of being able to engage in that a little bit more closely than we have been. That's all. I think it's worth some review.
Yeah, let's add it. And again, if we can get an opinion and maybe even have them present at the meeting, I think that'd be a good thing.
Sure.
It might very specifically.
Mike specifically.
Yeah, I want Mike here. I'm tired of getting multiple opinions that are different.
We have had a range of that.
Yes. So the question to ask him is, what is the extent of our authority in terms of engaging in some type of oversight for that section? Is that what we're asking? him
Yes,
to do?
that's the request from Mike. And then as we debated, I'd like him to be here. So if we want to go deeper in any one subject, we can. But I do want Mike. Yeah, member Roland?
I've got two other pieces of, I guess, old business. I think, number one, we should be sensitive when we've got, like, 2 Mondays ago, that big agenda. And I'm just saying, like, maybe we put a limit, like no more than 4 or no more than, pick a number.
Mhm.
And I think, again, like today, I mean, we've got to be sensitive to the citizens and maybe put them first, especially the quick ones, just get them done, get them out. Even if we have to call an audible here,
Yeah,
like, hey, we're gonna move some things around and get these people out, 'cause it's gonna be a 2-minute.
that's a
Yeah,
great point.
Right when we started, I realized that we should have.
It didn't occur to me until we
It
even
didn't
started
click.
talking to them, and then I'm like, why didn't we put them
Oh,
first?
right when when we started the airport one, I almost said, can we table the rest of the, and I thought, that's not right. We already went through.
Would you mind organizing it that way? You know which ones are going to be quick or at
Yeah,
least have a
like I said,
sense.
we typically do. It's just when we have an item that's tabled, we try to address that first since it's old business from the previous meeting. Normally we put the public hearing ones first. Is how that's typically organized. Or if I'm aware of one that'll have a lot of
Yeah.
public presence.
Even the
try to
stuff
put
we're
those towards the
tabling,
front.
if we know it's going to be a long one, let's, especially in that situation, because we put citizens behind, a corporation.
Mhm.
So I think, they're paid to sit and wait. The citizens aren't.
Good point.
So. Yeah. Okay. Member Moxley, how are we coming on our subcommittee?
Just want to give you an update that we're meeting again this Wednesday. The Round Hill Process Recommendations Committee will be meeting once again. Usually we start right at 4 and we're done by 5. So we get through it as fast as we can. And I think, Brian, you were on vacation last one, but hopefully you'll be there this time. So both Brian and Ben have given us a lot of good input at our meetings, and appreciate all these gentlemen down here contributing their opinions.
Awesome. And Member Rissy, how is your subcommittee?
We're getting our hands dirty. And
Wormies one, right?
that's right, that's right. So we're learning a lot more about that than I had expected. I believe we also have a subcommittee meeting this week. We're doing an early one and.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad I'm not on that subcommittee.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we like to get out in the garden early, so.
Early bird gets the worms now.
Right before breakfast, you know. So, yeah, no, we're working through it. I hope that we will be coming back to all of you with the goal. We're trying to do this very quickly so we can come back to all of you very soon. So I don't want to jinx it by setting a deadline here, but the anticipation was 2 or 3 meetings. So I would think that, in a few weeks here, you might see it on an upcoming agenda, hopefully in June or July. But again, that was the goal, was to get through it quickly. So we're in the process of crafting several potential amendments, and so we'll just, if you want to see it, come to our meeting. It's open to the public, 7:30 Thursday, Township offices. If you don't, you can wait and see what we say when we bring it to you guys. So, lots of opportunity to give input.
Get your hands dirty. Yes, Member Myers.
I believe the fire station will be presented this Wednesday at 6:30. At 6? Okay, glad you clarified that. Are they receiving public input at that point, or is that strictly a presentation of what's going to be presented?
A postcard went out 8 weeks ago announcing this meeting, so.
I'll have to look back in my stack of mail, but we had something show up at our office on Friday that was postmarked March 7th. Yeah, the deadline to respond it was a bid opportunity. The deadline to respond was the end of March. I thought, well, this is strange. Flip the envelope over and it says postmark date was March 7th. No one can explain how it took, and it was mailed from Grand Rapids Township. How did something from Grand Rapids Township take that long to show up?
That's a bummer.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I think
You'd
it
be
was
surprised.
also on Facebook though, too.
Yeah,
What's that?
I'm not on Facebook either.
All right. Any other old business?
I just want to say, I attended the working sessions for the strategic planning, and Member Reese attended quite a few of those too. 2 or 3 of them. I didn't make the first one. I was kind of bummed to miss that one, but they were, I think we had some really engaged citizens, and I was really grateful to be part of that process. So looking forward to seeing next steps.
There is another.
Joe there too. I harassed him a little bit, told him that he should join the planning commission because we have really short meetings.
The first one
Nah,
came
that's
to,
not what I
it was like-
said.
It was like the Bataan
Something
Death
like that,
March.
yeah.
You did actually, yeah.
10 a.m. on Friday, there is another strategic advisory committee, and they're here in this room, or part of this room anyway, and they're open to the public. So if anybody's interested in
What's the topic of that?
that one is, I think they're reviewing all of the working sessions that have had. This is actually for the committee.
Okay.
I'm typically there. I'm blessed to get a root canal at that time. So,
Lucky you.
yeah, I know, right? So I will not be there, but I'm typically there. So, but if anybody would like to attend, it's worth listening in on, right?
What
And
time is it?
it's at 10 a.m.
10 a.m.?
That's
Okay.
right there. Yep.
Right.
Awesome. Member Rissy.
Yeah,
Do we have anybody on Zoom? I would make a motion to adjourn.
support.
Motion made and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night. Brian, when is our next meeting?
So we have one next Monday.
Okay.
Right now, I'm not seeing anything new for the agenda, so maybe we'll give you a call tomorrow, but.
Okay. And then do I need to sign that plan? Once
I'll
it's-
need to get a full set
Okay.
from them for it, so.
I'll call.